All right. So the next nutrient that I wanted to talk about is phosphorus. And this one is a bit more tricky. And it does change throughout this spectrum. And phosphorus is also going to be super individualized based on your lab values. So bear with me. This is kind of like a big picture overview of how phosphorus changes. So early CKD, we want to limit phosphorus additives, and I'll talk a little bit more about what I mean by that in a little bit. So we want to do that in early CKD, and then if GFR goes down and we fall into advanced CKD, you still want to avoid those additives, and you might want to start thinking about phosphorus from dairy and meat and some other animal sources. And then if dialysis happens, then it becomes super individualized, but likely you definitely want to continue avoiding phosphorus from those additives, and dairy. Meat may get a little bit tricky because people on dialysis need more protein, but again, that's super individualized. And then post transplant, we kind of just go back to the same thing as early CKD. Sort of natural phosphorus, I wouldn't be so worried about, but phosphorus additives, we still want to avoid, just again, to help keep that kidney as healthy as possible. So why do we care about phosphorus? The biggest thing is that high phosphorus levels are associated with a faster progression of CKD. So that's pretty big. And high phosphorus levels can also have negative impacts on both our bones and heart. So again, those artificial sources should be limited for everyone. And I'll talk again a little bit about why that is in just a second. But natural sources of phosphorus, so phosphorus that occurs naturally, specifically in plant foods, are usually totally fine. They may need to be restricted for some people with very advanced CKD or people on dialysis, but for most people, natural sources of phosphorus are totally cool. And the reason for that is this. So the amount of phosphorus that our bodies absorb from these different sources is dramatically different. So you can see down on the left here that phosphorus from plant foods, so from beans, lentils, nuts, seeds, whole grains, foods that maybe some of you were told to avoid because you have kidney disease, the phosphorus isn't absorbed. And in fact, the updated guidelines that came out from the National Kidney Foundation and the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics just last August, so about a year ago, is kind of reflective of this difference in bioavailability, or the amount of phosphorus that is absorbed from our foods. So again, we care very little about the phosphorus in plant foods because our body doesn't use it anyway. We just excrete it. And then dairy and meat, the absorption does go up quite a bit. We absorb about 80% from dairy and 80, 90-ish% from that animal flesh. Again, meat, poultry, fish, and seafood. And then phosphorus food additives, we care about a whole lot because our bodies suck up that phosphorus. And there also tends to be quite a bit in there. So where do we find these phosphorus food additives? And they are rampant. They could potentially be in practically any, I'll use the word processed food that you can think of. Here are some of maybe the more common ones. You find them very commonly in frozen prepared foods, so like TV dinners, or like those bags of like pre-made seasoned stir fries things, you know what I'm talking about, or like convenience meals, like certainly a box of macaroni and cheese, or like a can of beef stew or something like that. Salty snacks, so you might find them in certain brands of even like pretzels or cereals. Cola is what's most famous for having phosphorus, and it has phosphoric acid, both regular and diet. Coke and cola, whether it's Coke or Pepsi or off brands, have that phosphoric acid. But you'll also find phosphorus in other things, like it's in some flavors of Crystal Light, for example, but not in other flavors. So you really kind of have to check to see what products you're buying to see if they have phosphorus in them. Another really big one is non-dairy creamers. So like those delicious coffee creamers that we all use so commonly. Those tend to have phosphorus additives in them. And also, unfortunately, a lot of the milk or plant-based substitutes like almond milk or those coconut milk or those types of things tend to have phosphorus additives in them as well. And also fast food. So this is a big one. Any fast food, you can be pretty positive that there's phosphorus additives in that. So how do you know if your food has phosphorus additives in it? And what you need to do is the only way that you can know, because unfortunately phosphorus is not explicitly listed on the nutrition facts label like sodium or calories or those types of things is or are. So instead you have to hunt for it. So you have to look at the ingredients on that food label. And I apologize that this is so small, but you have to look for ingredients that have the letters PHOS, so phos. And there's like literally hundreds of different words that phos could be in. This one is disodium phosphate, if you can read that in these Cheetos here. Like I said, if you have a bottle of Coke, go look at it and you'll see that Coke has phosphoric acid. So there's lots of different words that phos could be hiding in, but the key is you want to stay away from phos in any ingredient because that means that ingredient is likely adding that artificial phosphorus to the food, which we want to avoid for basically everyone.